I thought that was a really interesting piece of research which I haven't heard about before. And I was particularly interested because I think I've had a long career being the wrong sort of black girl. So my heart went out to some of the girls that you were talking to. Now, we have with us today Tony Messiah from Tooks Chambers, who I believe has something he wants to say.
I've been told I've only got 5 minutes. Rosemary will be happy to hear that I'm sharing a success story. I was in the other room. Essentially, I'm dealing with young people expelled from inner city state schools and the consequences thereafter. And I think the best way to deal with that is by sharing my story with you. I had somewhat of an unpromising start to life. I grew up in Tottenham. I was expelled from several schools, and I was involved in crime, gangs, received several convictions, and to cut a long story short, got myself back into college, university, bar school, and now I'm a trainee barrister at Tooks Chambers. Thank you. But the main point that I want to highlight is when young people, in particular black youths, are expelled from school. And my story essentially is, when I grew up, I was very hyperactive in nursery and primary school. And that was my only problem, you know, back-chatting, getting out of my seat when I wasn't supposed to, not putting my hands up, and that's it. And that behaviour followed me from nursery to primary school. And I was expelled from several primary schools. And my poor parents, you know, they lost their jobs because they had to come and pick me up and so on. And it was really difficult, and I do apologise, I'm not here, but I do apologise through that. And my parents said, well, the Haringey Education Services said to my parents, well, your son will never get back into a mainstream school. He has to go to a pupil referral unit, right? And so my parents trust, you know, my mum wasn't born here, she's Tibetan, my dad was, but they had me very young, they trusted the education services, they thought, you know, they knew what was best for their son. So they said, fine. Now, some of you may know, a pupil referral unit is like a boiling pot. All of the children that have been expelled in the area just put in one place. Now, so I started off being hyper, but that behaviour that was around me was rubbing off on me. So I started becoming violent, and I was involved in crime and so on. I don't just say that it was only me. I'm sure it's the same for my co-students at the pupil referral unit. They probably came with the same problem, hyperactive, but then that changes being in the pupil referral unit. And then I managed to get expelled from a PRU, which was impossible. but it happened. So my parents said, that's it. You're staying at home, and we're going to teach you at home. And that's it. Then the education services contacted my parents and said, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Messiah, if you keep your son at home, and it's illegal, you can't teach him at home, he needs to go to school. So my parents said, well, he can't get into a mainstream school, he can't get into a pupil referral unit, what do you suggest? They said, oh, this is what we suggest, a behavioural boarding school in Norfolk, right? Now they sent me there, and I was the only ethnic student there at the time, and cutting a long story short, I experienced much racism, physical abuse, and so on. And just to highlight and paint a picture of the type of place the education service sent me to, the head teachers of those schools a few years ago were convicted of child cruelty. That's the place they sent me to. That's the decision they made. And my parents took me out there in the end. And funny enough, the education services didn't say anything to my parents after that. Again, they said, do whatever you're doing. So after that, a lot of things happened. I left home, and I was in the streets in Tottenham and so on. And after that, I went to a training centre. I did an NVQ in computers. And then that got me into college, I did BTEC in computers, and I thought that's what I was going to do, because that's the direction teachers were pushing me in. You know, you hear it all the time. Your son's very good at music. He could be a rapper. Why doesn't he do a music GCSE? Why doesn't he do sports? Why doesn't he do media? And I almost fell into that trap until my parents said, you know, you can do better than that. And I went to university, read law, went to bar school, finished that, and I secured a pupillage, like I said, at Tooks Chambers. I know I haven't got enough time, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.